following is an encore presentation of Moral Side of the News. This episode originally aired on June 21st. Hello and welcome to Moral Side of the News, our weekly discussion of today's top stories from a moral, ethical, and religious perspective. I'm Sean Kalin with the WHAS Crusade for Children, and I'm joined today, as always, by a distinguished panel of local religious leaders. Deacon Greg Gitschier, St. Patrick Catholic Church; Father Tony Smith, Archdiocese of Louisville; Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School; Reverend Sally McLean, Christian Church Disciples of Christ; and Richard Euler, retired U.S. Army chaplain. We begin this week with the terror plot targeting the UFC event at the White House last weekend.
The FBI says as many as 23 people were part of the network discussing this alleged plot. And this morning, officials are emphasizing that the investigation is ongoing and they still have to identify all those involved.
This morning, disturbing new details in the alleged plot to target this past Sunday's UFC event on the White House South Lawn, celebrating President Trump's 80th birthday. The FBI and Secret Service say 5 people plan to target the event using explosive-laden drones and snipers to shoot politicians and wealthy people in an attempt to sow chaos across the nation's capital.
It was an active plot, and it's ongoing.
19-year-old Tyson Proper from Knox County, Ohio, is charged with conspiring against the United States and attempted murder. Court documents obtained by ABC News identify 4 additional suspects who law enforcement officials say were working with Proper. The men are from California, Nebraska, and Missouri, all charged with conspiracy to commit murder. And prosecutors say this man, Abraham Alvarez, also known as the Shepherd, organized the alleged plot. Another suspect is seen here allegedly conducting firearms training. Another found with tactical gear and a rifle in his kitchen. Law enforcement saying they found a signal group on Proper's cell phone called Hunters, containing detailed instructions for carrying out the attack, including plans to safely escape. Proper later told investigators members of this group were primarily recruited through TikTok, and that they believed the United States needed to be torn down so that it could be rebuilt. Authorities say the plot was discovered after Proper's mother contacted police just days before the UFC event, noting her concern about her son's recent conduct, including firearms purchases and communicating with certain individuals online who expressed ultra-religious and anti-government sentiments. There was also anger about the Epstein files and billionaires.
So panel, your thoughts, Greg? I think we should start with you on this, being the former Secret Service in your years in that service. What do you make of this?
Well, I'm sorry these stories keep coming up where I'm first to comment, but it is what it is. This is the 4th attempt here in recent times. And we saw, I think there was about 8,000 people there at this event inside there, and most of them were military, by the way, being honored there. But, you know, I think what we're seeing here is drones are being used like they were used in the last few years over in the Ukraine-Russia war. As a matter of fact, if you caught the news this morning, Ukraine launched a bunch of them right into Moscow and blew up a huge refinery. I mean, that was amazing that they got through. So drones are something we have to deal with now. We used to have to deal with, you know, long-range rifles or bombs. Now we got to make sure we stay up on drones because many drones are not that expensive. You can buy the explosives to load them up, and they're hard to detect. You know, so drone mitigation is a big thing right now. You know, as a security consultant, I've worked maybe 10 big PGA Ryder Cup and events around the country, and drones is always on our list of things to do. So we usually work with our government allies, where they have fortunately, they do have the capability of taking over a drone and making it land where they want it to. And as they do that, they research where the drone is being guided from, and they dispatch law enforcement to go pick them up to investigate them. But still, when you have these drones loaded with explosives, which I understand this plot for the UFC fight was to hit some buildings on the north side of the White House, and I got to work there for a few years. But just to call that distraction and make people run into away from that explosions, and then they have snipers up on the roofs just to shoot as many people they could, in a confined area. And that was their phase 1 and then phase 2. And then they added phase 3. While all that was going on, they were going to try to storm the White House gates with the third force. So it was organized to a point. They weren't professionals. There might have been a serviceman or two in there, but I think there's 23 total, 5 arrested. But I mean, we just have to pay attention to the fact that, people are getting, I think, unfortunately, I think it's going to happen again. I hope I'm wrong. But, people are getting so wound up. And even these people, when they interviewed them in the affidavit that I read, they said, well, we thought this country needs to be taken down to its knees so we can rebuild it again. And whose fault is it? I don't know. They're going to go through all their phones, all their laptops. They're going to go through everything to find out who they've been communicating with. But it's going to come back to social media and how it has an influence on young people. And especially, I think, young people that don't live in the real world. They live on their screens at home, and they don't interact with people, and they get indoctrinated by who knows what. And to go out and buy automatic weapons, drones, and explosives, put together this plan to attack a bunch of people celebrating.
I have a question. So this is the 4th attempt, or possibly the 4th attempt. So why wasn't this venue held somewhere like Madison Square Garden, where it could be contained and not, frankly, I think it was obscene, to do it on the White House lawn? What was the purpose? Because you could have, secured that facility a lot easier than an outside event.
Well, I think that's a fair comment. You can obviously secure a Madison Square Gardens or an arena easier than an outside event, especially from the drone aspect.
Correct.
But remember what happened at the White House dinner, the Journal's dinner, where that was in an arena at the Hinckley Hilton Hotel in their area, right? And that's what we called it. And so they still, were able to get through. So it's not 100%. But for whatever reason, I don't know why, President Trump wanted to have this event outside, part of the 250th anniversary. And and I can tell you, there's been other events at the White House that, there's been ballets there, there's been symphonies there, there's been rock and roll bands. President Obama, I know, used to have basketball events there, tournaments. So it's not unusual to have outside events, Easter egg hunts, but this was a very big event outside.
Yeah,
and it took a lot of security.
Drew a lot of attention, and
Oh yeah.
And so I'm just thinking. I mean, it was a male, masculine, dominant kind of event, and as I said, frankly, I thought it was obscene. But okay, and I just don't know why it wasn't more in a venue that was more appropriate instead of building and constructing something that has already been built. And I think probably because of that event at that dinner that they have corrected that a lot. I'm sure that their security is a lot better now. They understood the mistake, and now they've made that much better.
The threat level for President Trump must be off the charts. I mean, like off the charts, because
Well,
we've had a lot of presidents, and that rile people up. But these men and women that are working protective intelligence, which they do every day, they must be just inundated with threats and conspiracies and everything going on.
How close did this group get to that, physically to that event? They weren't anywhere near it. They were all caught, here, there, and everywhere, but I don't believe anyone was caught in the district.
No, not to my knowledge. They were still in their home states, and they were, I know that, like the son that, remember, we always say, if you see something, say something, even if it's your own family member, and that's what the mom did. He was buying weapons online. He was started out on TikTok, then he switched over to the Signal app, which is a encrypted app that anyone can use, and they thought they had the ability to use that. And of course, the agencies are able to embed themselves in some of these apps. So they probably got word of this ahead of time, and they were able to arrest them before they left their houses, is what I'm going to assume.
Then that is to the credit of these agencies doing excellent follow-up.
The FBI and Secret Service did a great job.
Yeah.
And the mom.
And thank God.
Yeah,
the mom.
yeah.
Mom.
Which had to be a wrenching moment for her. I mean...
Well, despite what has been said, obviously I would wish, like yourself, think that this should not happen. And like yourself, too, I don't mean sound pessimistic, but I think we haven't obviously seen the last time it's going to happen, especially with the availability of what they have. Two comments. One comment was the age of these individuals. My understanding initially was that they were young adults. But just saw a report this morning coming out about well, of course, we heard Great Britain, has done away with the ability, supposedly, ability of young adults to have these mass media routines. But they were saying that they're seeing a tremendous increase in the number of young adults and young teenagers seeking help with mental problems because of the mass media and all this good stuff. That's partly. The other thing is, what disturbs me is immediately, again, the investigation's been going on, but the major investigation is going to continue here now. But we already see the blame being thrown around.
Yeah.
And the one that comes to my mind is, of course, certain individuals of the current administration is blaming the previous administration, the Democratic one. My only comment there was, for inciting the young to do this. My only comment was, again, when you're in glass houses, don't throw stones, type thing. We can look at the previous administration first administration of Mr. Trump and the current administration. An argument can be made, I think, of some of the incitations, as they were, to use that terminology, of having people take up arms and go all the way from January, storming of the Capitol, all the way to the president. And some of these things, this person needs to be dead. This person is a treason. This person needs to be killed, even from the president himself. That's what's concerning me, which to me, whether Democrat or Republican makes no difference. But I think it's adding to the mix of getting these youngsters excited to say, well, let's do something about it then. So.
Well, if they want to do mission planning and of a military perspective, we got an occupation for them. But none of them probably joined the military
Probably
at all.
not,
And, I don't remember reading if any of them were part of the military, but it's got to stop. But the other part is that maybe this is signs of the times. And I'm somewhat of a dispensationalist where you point that out of, there are signs that look just like what we're reading in especially in the New Testament that talks about, in the last days, perilous times shall come.
Right. Okay.
So.
Well, I believe that the drones were diverted. I don't think they were going to have success with those drones, but that's going to be enough to initiate the response.
Yeah.
So one thing we study a lot on assassination attempts all through our history is the explosion happens here because they want to funnel you here, and this is where they're going to try to hurt you. So we always have to be aware of like playing 3D chess, 2 or 3 steps ahead. And I think that's what those drones were going to do, because there is like a 30-mile airspace canopy over the White House. I know that for a fact because I've been there, and we have ways of defending the White House that I won't even go into. But there's airport close by, but those drones would have been picked up very quickly, I believe personally. But it was like that was just part of the diversion to funnel all these people into a big kill zone.
Right.
And I mean, so like you said, it's kind of like a military type planning. So they took the overt acts. I'm sure the affidavit's going to, they're going to intercept all their conversations. So they were prepared to do it. Could they have pulled it off? I don't know, but certainly there's professionals out there that can pull this kind of stuff off too. And with the 250th anniversary of the United States, there's going to be a lot of fireworks displays for 4th of July. There's going to be a lot of big events with a lot of people there. And, with FIFA being here now with all these big events, I think they're really pushing security to the limit.
Yeah.
And I think they have a drone plan that's unique to that setup as well. That is,
And the problem is, who can tell the fireworks from something coming off of a drone? And look at Thunder over Louisville. They have the whole display. What's the display? A bunch of drones.
That's
so
right. Yes, sir.
this is complicated.
Yes, yeah, it's going to be challenging. It's going to definitely be challenging.
great conversation. Thank you, Greg, for your expert insight on that. Let's move on now, a topic we've been trying to get to for a couple of weeks. And Richard, you're an expert in this. As the role of military chaplains evolves, a new policy from the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, is raising important questions about the identity, authority, and faith within the armed forces. Removing the rank insignia and emphasizing religious calling, the change aims to make chaplains more approachable, but also blurs the lines between spiritual leadership and military structure. So we'll start with you. I know you were a military chaplain for, what, 40 plus?
28 years.
28 years, okay.
Yeah.
And retired. What do you make of this change? And
They've worn the military rank since 1914. It got suspended during World War I, reinstated again in 1926. Now it's 100 years. So I'm not in favor of it. I lean conservative, but there's where I kind of go in the opposite direction of what they're suggesting, that it's not a good thing, because if you're going to do that with a military specialty like the chaplain corps, then because of, well, they can be a little more buddy-buddy maybe, I think we could do the same thing for doctors, lawyers, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers. All those then shouldn't wear rank if you want to be that close to them. And, because the chaplain is assigned to a unit, that it seems to be just not a good thing, because then you run into the issue about, okay, who salutes who, how do you know what rank the chaplain is, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of problems that don't need to be problems.
Yeah. A lot of confusion. I was in the military, but not as a chaplain. But the confusion element, I think, contradicts what the secretary would like to have. It says, for instance, someone my age, close to 80, not wearing any kind of rank, and there's a person, in the young one, the enlistee is in the military, has an issue which the chaplain can bring to the upper level of command. But if an old guy like myself approached him without rank on, versus a young guy who just maybe just made a chaplain somewhere, there can be different responses. If you have a young fellow, even with the insignia, a young guy who's a chaplain as a captain, has to approach a major or a general type thing, there's going to be an immediate type higher level type thing. That distinction of rank, I think, is very important, because otherwise the confusion is, if you had a uniform on, I had a uniform on, and you had a uniform on, who would they flock to? They'd go to the young guy rather than the older guys. They don't know what rank we are, type thing. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing of, I think the military system itself will rebuke this. Once it goes into effect, I think there's going to be some major issues.
And I talked to somebody who is active duty right now, and I knew I could contact him. And he said they haven't done it yet in the Army. They're already starting to, I think, implement it in the Navy. But the Army has not yet. As of the 9th, I think, is when I talked to him. And I think it's going to be a big hurdle. It just opens itself for all kinds of issues.
Yeah.
So where are they trying to do it? What's the point then?
So they can perceive the chaplain as being more approachable. If they're not approachable now, there's a problem.
So why is Hegseth the one that's taking over the chaplain corps? Is that his position? I mean, it looks like he's got enough to do.
He's the secretary.
So he's the one that can determine what all this happens?
Yeah.
Okay.
And technically, the Congress is actually the one that bestows the ranks on everybody in the officer corps anyway. I don't quite understand that piece of it either. So
his religious background, from what I understand, is Christian nationalism. So we're looking at what are we teaching our impressionable young soldiers?
I don't think there is a Christian national denomination.
No, it's not. That's not the denomination.
Evangelical.
Right, but that's the pretense, so that.
Well, we can differ on that.
Well, we've become not the Department of Defense, but the Department of War, which I think is a huge difference.
It is. It was the Department of War at one time.
Until Harry Truman.
Mm-hmm.
Started out that way,
yeah. Right after the Air Force became a separate entity from the Army.
I guess I'm a little concerned about our priorities, because I tried to look up the budgets for education and the budgets for the Department of War. And what did I come up with? Okay, here it is. Here's my cheat sheet. I'm playing a you.
Got a whole folder of them.
So like In 2025, Department of Education was $82.4 billion plus 3.1 for fiscal something or other in 24. 26, the Department of War is $440 billion plus 1.45 trillion. So, you know, on and on that goes. And this is to restore the warrior ethos.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just kind of had a problem with that.
The warrior ethos was already implemented even when I was still in, about 20, it was right around 20 years ago. And that's no different than some of the other codes and creeds and things that we used over a period of time, and things changed. You know, even the examples of commercials. You know, it went from be all you can be to be this and that, and all kinds of different things. So things do change in that arena, but the ethos was to things like don't leave a fallen comrade behind. Well, we knew that already in the Vietnam War. We didn't need an ethos for that. Right. And we didn't leave a fallen comrade behind. We carried him out. Yeah. So I'm baffled as much as you are, Sally.
Well, and so what I've heard of Hegseth and what he's trying to preach, I mean, I just have a problem with that.
I just don't think it should happen. And
I'm just wondering, who's going to take care of our troops, our veterans, our military families? This is all a huge, needless smokescreen that I think is keeping our military truly off mission, and that's frightening.
I'm curious from a perspective of you're a chaplain with LMPD,
I was about to say that, yeah.
And how does the rank? You don't have a rank.
We're paramilitary. I didn't have the honor to serve in the country, but as a Secret Service agent assigned overseas, I was military liaison for SINCPAC for about 3 or 4 years. So I spent a lot of time on all the military bases and stuff. So I was around that all the time. But now as a police chaplain for 5 different police departments, I've been with Louisville for 16 years, but I have no rank, right? I mean, I'm just a chaplain, that's it. And I don't know if that makes me more approachable or not, I have no idea. But I do have to tell the people I ride, like when I ride in the police car with them on those occasions, then I always say, the first thing I say is, look, everything you say with me in this car will stay confidential unless you're threatening yourself or someone else, then I am obligated to report it to the command, you know. And so they know that from as soon as the door closes. So there's no insignia. I'm just a chaplain. You know, I'm not any rank. And, you know, I don't want them thinking that if they say something, I'm going to run and tell the chief or something, you know. So I got to kind of have that understanding. It's not exactly like the cloak of a confession, but I do let them know in the police car, you know, that I have no rank, but, you know, I'm here to help you, you know, or get you some help.
Do you feel encumbered that you don't have rank?
Well, I've never had it, so I can't, you know, I mean, because I've ridden with patrolmen, and I've patrol officers, and I've ridden with sergeants, and I've ridden with lieutenants, you know, so it never really mattered to me, the rank. But once again, we're paramilitary, we're not a military outfit.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're not dealing with soldiers who do have rank, so that they would salute
Oh, there's
you.
no salute, yeah.
Yeah, so they wouldn't know. What rank were you?
I'm retired as a colonel.
As a colonel. So they would salute you.
But I started out as a private when I was enlisted, and I actually gravitated more to the enlisted people than I did the officer side of the house because of that. Right. I had 5 enlisted ranks and 6 officer ranks, and it's like it didn't matter to me one way or the other. I wanted to do what I could to help the soldiers, yes, and that was my mission. It's the administrative stuff that kind of got in the way.
Richard, let's say for the sake of our discussion that you were still on active duty, you a colonel, and that would be taken away from you. Would you feel that would keep you from doing your mission to serve the troops that you are serving?
No, not to serve the troops, as much as it would be who salutes who. And it's not even the enlisted people. It's more, they'll recognize you as an officer, and they'll salute you regardless of what rank you are. It's the officer corps that are going to have the problem, because does a lieutenant know that this chaplain is a captain or a major, or whatever?
What about pay? Does that affect your pay at all?
It does not, because all they're doing is not displaying rank. You actually have a rank.
Well, you have a rank, but you're not displaying it. But,
You're not displaying
then
it.
they could say, well, we can take away your book. I don't know.
That all that's a personnel thing. Pay and allowances and all that is all done through personnel.
So then what's the point? Although I understand the point is to be, yes, more accessible.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just accessibility, right?
So I'm just trying to think in the Catholic Church how that equates. It doesn't really, does it?
No. But no, one of the things in the military too is I'm saying, what's the entrance rank for chaplain? Usually about a captain.
Since 1981, it was the first lieutenant.
First lieutenant.
It was captains before that.
Captain before that.
But there was a personnel issue that came up that they decided to do.
Okay.
I came out as a lieutenant.
One issue too, maybe you can clarify, for it's not so much dealing with the troops as such, but you have a staff that you have to coordinate all this stuff. Now, if you don't have rank, does the staff know your rank? Type thing. Because again, if you have somebody come in, as new, you have no idea who this person is.
You have an assistant. That's correct. Yeah.
So that's why I say, to me, again, it seems more confusing. You know, it makes it, his routine is, the secretary's routine is, it'll make it closer to the individual. It'll give you more standing there. But isn't one of the reasons he's doing away with the rank is because he said he sees the rank as being influencing the people with all this humanism and all this other good stuff that he doesn't want in the rank. So he's saying one side, let's get away from that. But on the take is he's implementing that more because of the lack of a rank. So there's a confusion there, conflation there from my mindset anyway.
That's a whole different system.
Well, yeah.
Because this is the secretary mandated to tell the people under him how to think?
Yeah, that's kind of what my point was.
Don't know.
You know,
I can say I'm as baffled as everybody else is on this one, because I'm scratching my head over it.
One of the things that, my only experience in this was going to a worship service, a Christmas worship service at Fort Belvoir, and how impressed I was with how everybody, it didn't matter. They were there to worship. Yeah. And so it was kind of, it was a really nice experience to be there.
Yeah. And more recently, we're not required to wear uniforms during worship services.
Yes. I think what's going to clarify this or bring it to conclusion is the experience of when it's out there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Great discussion, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
What service? What's that?
In your service.
They do that every
And you had children in the service as well. So thanks to our panelists. Thank you for a great discussion. Deacon Greg Gitschier, St. Patrick Catholic Church. Father Tony Smith, Archdiocese of Louisville. Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School. Reverend Sally McLean, Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And Richard Yoder, retired U.S. Army chaplain with the rank of colonel. Thanks for watching Moral Side this week. Join us again next week for an all-new show.